We've got dreams and disappointments aplenty on this week's Hacking TV.
Starting with cruel reality, Yahoo had to confess that it was the victim of the biggest identity hack in history 2 years ago, but it only found out right when it was trying to sell itself to Verizon. Oops.
Meanwhile, the egos of video publishers on Facebook took a hit last week when they found out that the company overstated the time people spent watching their videos by 200%.
Well, on the optimistic side, AT&T says its yet-to-be introduced streaming service will be bigger than DirecTV within 5 years.
And Snapchat continues to dream big, now introducing its own line of sunglasses with a wireless video camera built right in.
Welcome to the little podcast that dreams big, Hacking TV. I'm Saul Hansel.
And I'm Steve Rosenbaum, and this is Hacking TV. Welcome, Saul.
Welcome, Steve. So 500 million identities stolen 2 years ago. I sort of say it's the same, a big number, but we've seen this before. What do you think? You know, does this
I think
affect the world?
I think it's a disaster. I think it has a series of dominoes that start to go like this, and I think the number
what's down at the end of the chain.
So, first of all, the New York Times reported the story with this TikTok in which Marissa had to call Lowell McAdams and say, hey, listen, I know you're not going to like this or anything, but I've got some really bad news. And then she had to call Tim. And, you know, let's just start with feeling bad for Marissa for a moment. She was planning a long vacation, going to be with her kids. She'd gotten a bunch of cash. She was like out the door. They were going to sign the papers and she was going to be like, Asta. Now, and Lowell McAdams, who, by the way, I've never met and never seen in a panel, but I just have this instinctive gut feeling that he's not a very, these are not the kinds of issues that he'd be like, que sera, sera. I mean, he's a hardcore, serious business guy, and security is something that Verizon takes very seriously. And I think, at the very least, there's going to be a reworking of the numbers.
So I'm not as convinced of that as you are. I will give you that, A, Verizon certainly wants to understand every dimension of this, and B, if there's a way they could get the price ratcheted down, they will. But there are a couple things about this that make me think that it is not the biggest material adverse circumstance, to use the phrase that's built into the contract that would let Verizon walk away. One, we've seen lots of these identity thefts. Banks, credit card companies, Target, lots of people have had stuff stolen. And, I mean, how often do you get something in the mail saying, time to change your password? And so I don't think that we've seen companies take huge hundreds of millions of dollar charges because of some liability. It's a pain in the ass, but it's millions and 10 millions of dollars to deal with it. Second reason, and this is a plus and a minus, it's 2 years ago, right? So if something bad was going to happen to lots of people in huge scale, it would have happened already. So,
by the way, if the first thing I'd want to know if I were Lowell McAdams is, I want to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Yahoo folks knew nothing about. Like, I just don't know how you can have a breach 2 years ago and not know about it. I don't know how that works.
Well, you can have there's lots of breaches that people never find out about, we assume.
I get never, but I'm not sure how you can find out and then
that is a fine question. The other interesting thing is the state-sponsored actor is interesting.
Yep.
So there's, I'm not saying I, Saul Hansel, guarantee that there isn't another shoe that's going to drop, right? There are lots of open questions here. All I'm saying is that from a pattern recognition point of view, the pattern that we've seen, and we've seen a lot of data breaches that were tens of millions of accounts, not hundreds of millions of accounts, that didn't bring down companies, that didn't have hundred of million and billion dollar ramifications. It's a what, $6 billion deal, right? So
all I'm saying is this. You know, you're going in to buy a house, and you've done your inspection and everything, and you've agreed on a number, and just as you're about to sign the check, there's a creaking sound and the living room floor falls out. Tell me you're not paying less.
If you can do it, you can. It also depends on what people's predispositions are. Tim has wanted Yahoo forever. Cognitive dissonance theory says he's going to minimize it. What did Lowell think?
Well,
has Lowell been lusting after this? And other than wanting to cut the best deal possible, does he want to do the deal, or was he convinced to do something he didn't want to? And is he or some political faction going to use this to scotch a deal they never liked? All that could happen. We just don't know whether it will.
We are going to watch this closely, but I'll only say this. Keep in mind, Yahoo is also Flickr. It's also Tumblr. There's like lots of startups that have been bought by Yahoo that are all living inside the big purple exclamation point. This isn't good for any of our friends. It's a bummer. So I'd like to think it goes away and there's just a 20% haircut on the deal, but I think it's going to be.
So what's your guess? Do you think more likely than not is the deal get killed?
If I had to prognosticate now, I'd say, you know, Verizon was already seeing some stuff it didn't like internally. It was seeing more porn on Tumblr than it realized. It was seeing more whatever. The numbers are going down, and I think they walk away. I think They say, you know what? This was going to be a tough integration job, and we've got work to do at Go90. We have work to do at AOL. And Huffington, I think they walk away.
All right. I think that if, you know, in for a dime, in for a dollar.
And maybe fast. Maybe fast.
Well, they should, if they're going to do it, they should do it right away. All right. One little bit of Verizon news that, you know, the vessel which Jason Kilar, who was a, you know, Amazon executive who built Hulu from ridicule to whatever it is, and raised $130 million from a bunch of smart people. His company is doing so badly that he's willing to sell himself to the graveyard of digital has-beens, Verizon, or so the rumor mill goes.
He's got a lot of cash. What's interesting is he's got a lot of cash. Okay. So it's not like he's running out. He's got $130 million in the bank.
And so it's companies at that stage only sell when they or their board wants to sell. So he doesn't have to sell. So and the other thing is they've decided, or so the rumors go, to pivot into a completely different business that has something to do with Snapchat. So
Verizon wants to buy a company, but not its product.
Or, based on his track record, I would put Jason Kilar in charge of the whole mess that, that I am acquiring, as an acqui-hire for not too much money. He's a good guy, but I don't know that, the product isn't much of much.
I think let's move on to happier stories, because both of those are like downers.
Well, one more downer before we get to the happy ones. Our friends at Facebook admitted a little bit of a mathematical error, right? They had been publishing a metric, average time people spend watching your videos, Mr. Publisher or Advertiser, but they divided the total amount of time spent not by the number of people who watched your videos, but by the number of people who watched your videos for 3 seconds or longer. And it turns out that number is only a third as big as the total number. Most people skip past a video within the first 2 or 3 seconds. Therefore, your numbers were inflated by 300%, 200%. That doesn't look good for the fastest growing up-and-comer in the video and video ad space.
And irony of ironies, much as Yahoo is falling on its sword over being wrong for 2 years, it appears that they've been doing this metric wrong for 2 years.
And And no, they point out
2014. Everyone must have been on like a really bad hangover that year.
It's worth pointing out that the metric here inflated the egos of all the people who were publishing video, but it wasn't what Yahoo was billing advertisers on. But the bigger thing here is nobody should trust any metrics anywhere on the internet, right? It's, the third parties are based on, crazy kludges of technology. The internal guys who, should have better numbers, can make typos when they're typing their Excel formula that can have a big impact. So the most measurable medium in the world is measured in made-up units.
But I also think part of why this story's not going away for Facebook is, they really tooted their own horn about, we're bigger than YouTube, we're growing really fast, we're the biggest, we're the baddest. And, a whole bunch of people have been saying, wait a minute, the numbers don't make sense. And I think there's going to, what's strange is some of the reporting says Facebook's going to have to let people put their own metrics on their pages. And then there's other reporting that says, but of course, Facebook already allows you to use third-party metrics. I'm not really sure which one is accurate.
Well, Facebook's own post says that they allow some third-party metrics. They want to be really big, and they want to, so they have to be open to some degree because the big advertisers are going to want accountability. Nothing could have been better for the people like Moat who do video metrics, because now everybody who was relying just on Facebook metrics is going to have to hire a third party just to double check.
I'm just glad you told me how to pronounce that company. I've never known whether it was Moak or Mook or Mock.
Isn't it Moat with a T?
Moat, as in
the moat between you and the princess.
Data.
Yeah. All right. Now here's a story that on one sense is nothing. It's just a boast about a product that doesn't exist yet. But if we decode it a little bit, there's a lot in this. So AT&T at the Goldman Sachs conference said something to the effect of, in 5 years, we think our new, yet to be introduced streaming service is going to be bigger than DirecTV. And now let's just think about that. It was less than 2 years ago that AT&T agreed to buy DirecTV, the satellite service, which was the number 2, I think, or maybe number 1 or number 2 paid provider in the country. And including debt, they were going to spend $67 billion. Even for the phone company, that's a lot of money. And they have admitted that the thing that they bought, a company that owns satellites and beams them to antennas, is not that technology, the thing it does, is not relevant in the future, right? They are betting.
Wait. I've seen the future.
The future is? Yes.
AT&T buys Yahoo.
And this is so much bigger than that. Television, as you know, is, a $150 billion business in the United States. TV is big, right? And
it's this big.
It's that big. And so I think, that is the smoke detector in our building where if anybody is cooking on any of the 3 floors,
that's all right.
It beeps. All right.
I think we should, for the purposes of this story, call it a bullshit detector.
Wait, so let's understand, what is AT&T doing? They are going to introduce a product which I think you will argue that some people will want. It is get your cable channels, and some people, in fact, most people in this country watch some cable channels. They probably think they pay too much for them and they're paying for ones that they don't get. But people watch cable TV a lot, study shows. And so you can get your cable over streaming, and it will be a lot cheaper than buying it from Comcast because AT&T doesn't have to run the wire to your house.
I'm sorry. So I'm streaming cable to my what?
To your whatever, to the same, to whatever it is you watch.
My
Netflix
television,
on.
my flat screen doesn't have a doesn't receive a broadband connection.
Your flat screen can't hook up to Netflix.
It can through
A thing.
my TiVo box
Right.
or
So basically,
Roku.
any place you can watch Netflix, mobile, tablet, laptop, TV through a gizmo, will be able to watch all of the cable channels because TV is an app. And this is really important for the whole thesis here. Cable is divorced, has been divorced. The divorce is final from the cables. All the stuff that Viacom and Turner and Disney make, you can get any place you can get Netflix.
Okay, so here let me call bullshit on this. So some guys in Cupertino already tried this play, right? They went to all the cable guys and said, "Hey, how about if you do a deal with us so that we can put you on our Apple TV box?" And they all said, "How about we charge you through the nose so that it hurts really bad?" Why?
So that is an interesting thing. So look at what happened. You could make an argument that the stupidest possible sounding deal, Apple buying DirecTV, would actually have made sense because DirecTV, all it had a value was not all those satellites, and all those receivers, was contracts with all the cable guys. So if you're ESPN, you're Disney, you can't say fuck off DirecTV, AT&T the way you can say fuck off to Apple because they're a quarter of your viewer.
I just want to say, for the record, I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but I gotta believe that those contracts had, in one of those 50-page tiny little print contracts, there was a paragraph that said, if you move from something other than your satellite distribution mechanism, this contract turns into a pile of dust on the floor at our option.
I actually, and this is knowledge I have from reporting 5 years ago, that the satellite companies were very busily writing the exact opposite into their contracts. The industry has understood that this was going to happen for a long time. And, EchoStar certainly did. Remember, this product exists, right? So you already have Sling TV from Dish, and you have PlayStation TV that nobody watches, but it's the same deal. So there isn't a question. It is not a question that there will be cable bundles over the top. We know for a fact there will because there are. It's not a question.
But how does AT&T think it's going to do super? Like, what's the economic power that it has to make it cheaper?
They don't have to dig holes in people's front yards to run wires.
Yeah,
to hook some.
But neither does Sling.
Right. So the only economics that DirecTV. Well, what does AT&T have over EchoStar? One, more installed base, so they can get a slightly better deal from the networks. Two, a richer parent company, so more money to put into marketing. Three, not unimportant, the second biggest wireless carrier in the country, right? So if you sign up for DirecTV, you get free unlimited data. They can bundle, and so it's an interesting question, right? Whose bundle makes more sense? The guys with the wires, the guy with the wireless? I'm not saying that AT&T is going to be a winner. I'm saying AT&T is playing the game that I think everybody knows is going to be the game in the future. Comcast knows it.
So I'm cynical about this, but
let's just watch. 5 years from now, how, if any, is the business we now call cable or pay TV any different than it is today?
I think we're all going to have... No, I'm sorry, I have no... I think there's all kinds of things that are changing, but I just think... I think that one of the questions is the real innovation going to happen on the big side of the industry or the small side of the industry? And I, through my personal experience with my AT&T wireless account, honestly, I've been trying to solve a problem with my AT&T wireless account for 2 years. And every time I talk to a lovely person and every time they say to me, this is so fixable, we're going to get this fixed up for you right away, and it just doesn't ever get fixed.
And
wait, no. I'll even tell you what it is. When I call 611 on my phone on the weekend to check about my bill or add a phone or whatever, I get a recording that says, I'm sorry, we're closed. Please call back again during business hours.
And therefore, they don't have any market power in the pay TV business?
No, I'm not done complaining. Let me finish. They're not closed. They're open. AT&T is open all weekend. They're only closed for me.
Did you ever wonder whether maybe there's a reason for that?
Well, there is. Someone tagged my account with a Small Business Express tag. And Small Business Express, part of the value you get when you sign up for Small Business Express is they don't speak to you on the weekends.
Okay.
This would seem to be a solvable problem since I'm not a Small Business Express customer.
Clearly, the way to solve the problem is to use your weekend for more uplifting things than talking to AT&T.
Yes. As one person finally told me about 2 weeks ago, if it were her, she would just cancel the account and start over.
Uh-huh. And so, all right. So
anyway, moving on. Yes, I just think they're. I think if you look at the things in our industry that are interesting, if you look at Crunchyroll, if you look at Twitch, if you look at what's happening with live streaming on Facebook, if you look at Snapchat, they're all happening at tiny little agile, fast-moving, startup-y little companies. And I just think that the future of cable television, and whatever it will be, is more likely to come from somebody like Roku. Like, if I were Roku, I would say, wait a minute, we'll go out to all, we'll reach out to all these cable companies and give them a spot on our dial, and we'll pay them the same amount of money that AT&T is paying.
Well, Roku, for the time being, is one of the leading devices that AT&T and everybody are going to go through. So they're in a good position in the industry. I'm sure Anthony Wood has thought about, should he start an over-the-top cable service? It's an interesting question.
If I had to name the competitor that would take on AT&T, grab them by the throat and squeeze them until they have no oxygen left, it would be Amazon.
Amazon is very interesting. Amazon, by the way, is a humongous company that is innovating very rapidly, yep. And you could argue is the proof that elephants can sometimes dance. Although I will give you right away that it's the exception that proves the rule.
I have to speak very quietly now because I want to tell you about the Amazon device I have in my living room. But if I do, it'll turn on and start doing things. Shh. Alexa, shh.
A very interesting device. But at the same time, the new does not completely replace the old. You could argue that BuzzFeed and Huffington Post and all kinds of people were doing more interesting things than mainstream media. And guess what? CNN and the New York Times and the Associated Press are still around 20 years after the text launch of the internet and need to be taken stock of along with all these other folks. And some of them keep growing and some of them don't. I mean, it's not either or.
So let's just put a pin in this debate. You're saying old things don't die, and I'm saying old things just die slower than you think they should.
That's not at all.
But hold on.
Hang on, Steve. What I'm saying is that AT&T is making the choice to buy something knowing they will kill it as a way of leapfrogging into the new business.
Well, they bought the contracts. We get that. But if you had $100 to invest today and you had a choice between, I'll give you 3 choices: Snapchat, the AMC movie theater chain, or what's the radio iHeartRadio. Where does your $100 go today? The fact that you had to think for more than a second.
Because Snapchat's worth $87 gazillion, right? Or what's their valuation, right? Private market valuation?
There's just no way, with people getting bigger screens in their living room and surround sound and whatever and VR headsets, that the movie theater business, like that more and more people, and by the way, also terrible.
Again, I thought you were going to say AT&T, and I was thinking about that. I would not put money either into iHeartMedia or the movie theater chains. But AT&T is dead. Remember, AT&T is in the fastest growing piece of the technology business, which is wireless, right? The core business they are in, cell phones, is doing pretty well, thank you very much. Yes, it's a big, stupid bureaucracy. Yes, they have a bunch of copper wires that are going to strangle them to a point. I mean, it's a complicated company.
I don't know. I see more and more free Wi-Fi, more places that I go. Yep. I mean, they must know. They must have a really interesting spreadsheet that says at what point does the cost of not, I mean, if 85% of the time your device can connect to a free Wi-Fi network, how much are you willing to pay for that 15% when you're underground or whatever? By the way, let's get to our last story because I want to make sure we hit it.
Well, speaking of Snapchat, why don't you say what Snapchat did?
So, a bunch of years ago, Google came out with this thing called Google Glass, and its best feature was that it had a very high quality, kind of always on video recorder thingy that you could put on your frame. And as we know, it died an unglamorous death, and a lot of people paid too much money to be cool for a minute and then end up with a piece of garbage. But the idea of
a lot of people, by which you mean yourself.
So Snapchat kind of just out of the blue announced the other day, we're going to have a pair of glasses with
sunglasses.
What?
Sunglasses.
Cool. With a camera attached to it that will make snap video, and it's going to cost, as opposed to the $1,600 that Google Glass cost, it's going to cost $130. And geek hipsters everywhere went, "Me, I'll take one. Thank you very much." It's really fascinating.
Well, they took out the weird bit of Google Glass that cost money, the heads-up display. I mean, Google Glass was trying to be a whole new computing platform.
They're not the same device.
This is more GoPro. This is just build the camera into your glasses, and the argument goes, Evan Spiegel, all of 26, and who I've never met but seems to have some innovation chops, says putting the camera at eye view with, he says it's 135 degree or 115 degree field of vision makes for more interesting, different kind of video than holding up your camera. I believe that. And so,
except from an ego standpoint, you don't get to do the selfie.
Well, wait. Those are the sunglasses. The baseball cap with the selfie camera that turns back on you is the next piece of apparel that they will sell you. And
I think it'll be a massive runaway hit. Good for them. I don't know how.
I mean, I don't think there's necessarily any barrier to entry. It's not because it's not a computing platform. It's unless there's more to it, and they can afford to hire really good engineers, but lots of people can put can put cameras into sunglasses.
But these are going to be hardwired to your Snapchat.
Okay.
So you don't have to program it or connect it to your. I don't even know how it's going to work, but.
Right. So the ecosystem.
I just want to say right now, if anyone from Snapchat is listening to the show, I would like a pair, and I will wear them on the show.
Maybe we should each have a pair, look in the mirror, and record our show that way. But we'd have to do it in 10-second increments.
With that, we are out of time. Another hack-filled 30 minutes. Have an excellent week. Hack on.
Everybody, keep on hacking.